This is the regular get-together here at the Senior Community Center. Something to talk about, we call it, Monday through Friday at 11:30. And Tarra Simmons is here today. She's our newly elected state representative. She is succeeding Sherry Appleton, and she has been much in the news. She joins Drew Hansen in representing our district, which is the 23rd. And pardon me about my phone. She is the first former felon to be elected to state office in Washington. And so, of course, lots of people have been writing about that. She earlier made history with her admission to the bar in 2018 under orders from the state Supreme Court, which overruled the State Bar Association's effort to deny her even the right to take the bar exam. She has been a civil rights attorney and executive director of Civil Survival, which is a nonprofit by and for people who have been impacted by the criminal justice system. Any part of that would make for a great conversation today, but I really hope that we can focus on her new job. Look forward at Representative Simmons' pending work, which is her job of representing us in Olympia, or at least the virtual Olympia. So thank you very much, Tarra, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Reed, for having me. And I am so happy to see so many people who I met along the way, and especially Kimmy and Gary, who have been such dear friends to me and keep me strong every day. And some other friends who I have got to talk with and who I am in communication with on social media. And so many of you, I really, really appreciate it. I'm really happy to be here today. So thank you, Reed.
So I've got a couple of questions to get us started, but I hope that everybody who has a question feels free to either write it in the chat box, or you can actually, there's a little raise hand button at the bottom of the control, and you can raise your hand and we'll definitely let you get in here and talk with Tarra.
Yeah.
COVID is such a looming challenge. As you're starting to wrap your head around legislation tied to the pandemic and vaccinations, what do you think that you'll be prioritizing, Tarra, around COVID?
Yeah, well, you know, I was a nurse for 11 years also, and really think that we can't get out of this crisis unless we really prioritize the health of our entire community. I think COVID has shown us how interconnected we are in our health. And I'm grateful for that. I think there is a pathway towards making sure that every single person in our community has access to health care. But in the immediate situation here, we need to make sure the vaccination for this COVID-19 is safe and that people trust. We need to build trust with community members who have not always trusted our government and around vaccinations. And so, you know, getting myself up to speed on the research behind this vaccination so I can be a credible messenger to communities who don't necessarily trust, and that we disseminate the vaccination in a way that is free and accessible to our most vulnerable community members, such as people, you know, living unhoused. Obviously, we need to strategically just get this vaccination out to healthcare workers, and then to people living in long-term care facilities, to prisoners as well. Right now, we have really, really bad outbreaks inside the prisons, but to homeless shelters and the places that we often, you know, us who have homes and have economic security don't necessarily think of, you know, people living in joint facilities, community facilities. We need to get this vaccination out. So today I will find out which committees I'm going to be on. I really hope that I'm on the healthcare committee. I've asked for the healthcare committee because I have been a registered nurse since 2001, and I care deeply about everybody's health as a priority, including mental health, and really want to work to expand that. So, but right now we absolutely need to worry about you know, approaching this pandemic with health at the forefront and getting a vaccination out to everybody. And so that should be the priority for the whole legislature too.
Now, if we're interested in following what committees you get on, is that easy for us to find out online?
Yes, ledge.wa.gov is the website where you can find out wherever all the committees of all of our representatives. I will probably do a post on social media, and I know Reed, you follow me there. Not everybody's on social media, but I probably will. I'll be very excited to hear today which committees I'm going to be appointed to, but healthcare is one of them that I'm hoping for.
So that kind of gets to you have been in Olympia as an executive director of a nonprofit working with legislators. And now, of course, you're sort of on the other side, hearing from those people. It's a little early days, but are you having any kind of odd, sense of how things are changing for you? What is it like right now?
Yeah, it feels kind of like Disneyland, honestly, for somebody who came from, a very poor nonprofit without much resources, from a community that didn't have lobbyists, and the amount of work we had to do to get our ideas into the legislature was so really hard. And now I'm learning that we have staff, we have policy staff, we have communication staff, we have so many resources to make our jobs that much easier. And so really right now in these early days, I don't have my legislative assistant starting until December 28th. He will be the former legislative assistant for Sherry Appleton. So there'll be some continuity with our community. And so it's been challenging just scheduling things with people right now, especially as I'm still transitioning from my day job. But I'm learning that we have all of these new tools at our disposal, really learning how to work your ideas on the inside as opposed to the outside is my learning right now. However, I will say that because I've been an advocate in Olympia for so long, I know so many of the legislators and have really good relationships on both sides. And I'm really hopeful that I can garner some of that support to make sure that the bills that I introduce have bipartisan support, which makes them that much more likely to succeed. And so that's what I, bring. The transferable skills that I bring is the relationships that I have. And, also there's so many different issues that the people of the 23rd face. We care deeply about health and, the well-being of all of us. We care deeply about environmental concerns, and that list goes on and on and on. And we care about education and our economy. And so working with Senator Rolfes and Representative Hansen to make sure that within the three of us, we do have things covered. And so I'm meeting with Senator Rolfes this weekend to think about what are her priorities and what does she have covered for our district and what I can do, and what Representative Hansen is doing, and trying to build that strong working relationship with the system of communication and feedback within the three of us, so we can make sure everybody is covered on the particular issues that matter most to them.
I know that we're facing some budget challenges because of the effects of the pandemic on our whole community, and certainly that affects the tax base. How much is that going to just curtail those kinds of goals, at least for this first year?
Yeah, I will say that, when I first started to run for office, I had big visions to do things that we weren't doing now, such as wraparound services for children in schools. So there's more social workers to get to the cause of their social issues instead of disciplining them. And I really wanted to build upon some of the progress we've made over the last few years. I really love what the island volunteer caregivers do, and I would love to see that all across Kitsap County. People need to be able to stay in their home and not be pushed into a plan B around going into long-term care or assisted living if they can stay in their home. And I love the pilot that has been created through a nonprofit on Bainbridge Island, and I want to make that accessible to all of the community in the 23rd and everybody in the state, actually. Some of my visions and ideas and reasons why I ran are not necessarily going to be prioritized for this session because of the budget. My focus is on not cutting the things that we already have. We already are far behind in helping our unhoused neighbors throughout the district, and just outside of our district too. Here in Bremerton, where I live in West Bremerton, there's a lot of people living homeless. We were already far behind, and I wanted to make progress on that issue as well. Right now, it's kind of, the priority is to not cut the pay for in-home care providers. Particularly, I've heard from a lot of constituents that are worried about this. And so we know that the revenue is down because of our regressive tax system in Washington State, where we rely on sales tax. And so I that's another committee that I've asked for, is the Finance Committee, because I really think we need to fix this upside down tax code that we have in Washington State. And we should be collecting the wealthiest people who can afford. They're paying a fraction compared to a low income or middle class family in the amount of money they have or the wealth they have and the taxes they're paying. And so we are looking at, closing capital gains, excessive compensation, kind of a payroll tax on those that make over $1 million a year. The employer would pay an extra tax on that. We're looking for ways to raise the revenue, but in a way that is more just. And it's not falling on our middle class and low income families. Right now, I think, and we're so lucky, we have Mr. Rolfes, who is the chair of the Senate Budget Committee. And so I really rely on her expertise and will be working alongside her, if I am on the Finance Committee, to raise the revenue necessary to not cut anything. There's lots of special projects that I would like to raise more money for so we can invest in. But in the moment, because of the way our revenue is collected, we have to, and I think there is broad consensus that we cannot cut the services to our most vulnerable people in these days. We saw 10 years ago in the recession that just created problems, and more money we're paying later on in life, later on down the road. So yeah, that's.
Yeah, well, it sounds like there's some creative ideas about how to face this regressive tax system, which has been a challenge for years, many years. Growing up in this state, I remember people talking about an income tax, balanced taxation many years ago.
Yeah.
Bill, your microphone is open. Did you have a question?
Well, I have a few. Hi, Tara. Belated congratulations.
Thank you.
I had just heard that the Democratic leadership is asking all Democrats to limit the amount of bills that they will submit this year. Are you going to follow that? And if so, what are your 2 or 3 top priority bills that you want to push through?
Yeah, so I am going to follow the guidance of the House Democratic Caucus. So there's the Senate and there's the House. It's the House where I am a representative,
right,
that has asked us to only have 7 bills. I think it is good, both because I just got elected and I'm still learning how to engage OPR staff and all these things. And I'm not even sworn in yet. I think I will follow that guidance. And the bills that I'm going to be the prime sponsor on are things that I'm particularly and uniquely qualified to do, which one of them is my big bill, my freshman bill, is restoring the right to vote for all people who have been convicted of a felony as soon as they exit incarceration right now. And that's because I've worked in those stakeholders for years and am well prepared. It's a policy that has been fully vetted with stakeholders, and I'm equipped to lead on that from right away. And because of my work and where I came from, I am very much involved in criminal justice reform. Another one that is a priority for me is removing barriers to becoming an in-home care provider. Right now, I cannot be an in-home care provider. I'm discriminated against based on my criminal record. And my father was dying, and I, still did the work, but I wasn't able to get pay for that, which means I had to quit my job. And, you can't become a COPS provider if you have a criminal record. And the union asked me to help support this while I was on the campaign trail. And it's something I'm passionate about and was already working on. So I'll be working on that. I am talking to Senator Wolfez on Saturday to see if she has, a particular bill that's been kind of already gone through the sausage grinder and something that meets our district that's not in the criminal justice realm, because I don't want to just work on criminal justice, although that's where I'm going to start because that's the expertise area that I have. But I want to be a good representative and care for all. And so I am meeting with her Saturday to see if she has something else that I still have some room in my 7 bills. And is there something that a constituent has brought forward that has been worked up and there is a path and I can, take that up. But mostly, I'm going to be supporting on co-sponsoring all kinds of things, from law enforcement reform, decriminalization of drugs is another thing that a friend of mine is sponsoring. And right now we're spending, so much on incarceration of people that are suffering with substance use disorder. And we would like to increase health care for that. But a lot of the, focus will be on the budget. And hopefully if I get on the healthcare committee, I'll have a hand in getting this vaccination out. And those are kind of my priorities right now.
I do want to note that if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, there's a raise hand button at the bottom of the screen, and you can do that and I'll call on you. Or if you just open up your microphone, we'll do our best. Bill, did you have something else?
No, I have a few more, but let other people have a chance.
Okay.
Well, it looks like you have an opening, so keep going.
Well, I saw Nancy raise her hand.
Okay, Nancy.
You're on the. You're muted.
You're still muted,
Nancy,
so
muted.
we'll go to Christina
Okay.
and then come back to you, Nancy. You can probably unmute yourself at the bottom of your screen. Christina.
Hi, I'm so glad for you, Tara. I voted for you. I'm so happy to see you. I am saddened by the amount of executions that Trump seems to be doing on his way out the door. If we can get him out the door, seems to want to hang on. I'm wondering what your feelings are about what he's doing.
Yeah, well, I think that's more of a political question than a legislative question, but I will tell you I'm deeply concerned because we need to unify our nation, right? I am a person that really likes to collaborate and to build unity. And I do feel, in my personal opinion, that some of the things he is doing is divisive. I will be really happy when we have a new federal administration that supports, the values that I have. And within that, we always need to be collaborating and trying to build bridges and not increasing the division within the two-party system. I find that when I can collaborate with Republicans, the chances of my ideas getting to the finish line are much stronger, and that's because of the process of the legislative process. If it's a very partisan issue, there'll be so much time devoted to floor debate, and that limits how many things we can get through. And so when you can build consensus and collaborate with people, you will get things done. And that's the approach I take. And it's very disheartening to see, I watch MSNBC and CNN, and I go over to Fox News also because I don't want to be a person that's not well informed of both sides of issues. So I watch all of them, and it's disheartening right now. And I understand how our community can have kind of secondary trauma over what's going on and fear, and it's legitimate. And what can we do to support each other during these times and provide safe spaces? And I go to, in invisible groups and talk with my friends and just build community and get into action. But I hope this is resolved very soon.
Nancy, you now can ask your question.
Thank you. Actually, Bill, you caught me gathering some yarn. I'm knitting, but as long as I got my foot in the door here, or my mouth on the table, or however to say it, I'm so glad that you are a nurse, and that since the vaccine is now, such an important topic, I wonder, are we putting too much hope into this vaccine? Are there some limitations to its efficacy that we should all know about before we start getting injected? And, by the way, this is not, I am pro-vaccine. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah.
clear that. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for your question, Nancy. And I have not been fully briefed on the safety or efficacy of the vaccine yet. And I was just telling folks, that's why I'm hopeful that I get on the healthcare committee. That's what I've asked for, so I can be privy to all of the information, the research around this, because that is another thing, is that I come from a historically marginalized community, and what I'm hearing from my community, which is disproportionately people of color, that they feel that this vaccine could be another Tuskegee experiment, and there's a lot of fear around taking the vaccine. And if I want to be a credible messenger to my community, then I need to be fully briefed and have certainty that there is no long-term consequences of this vaccine as well, and that there is a good likelihood that it's going to prevent you from getting the disease. And so unfortunately, I just don't have the answer yet, but I am hoping that I can get on the healthcare committee, or I think, having government officials, researchers, and scientists give all of the legislators a real briefing of it is going to be a top need for all of us.
Yeah, and there's more than one vaccine, I might mention. So we have, it's kind of a complicated situation, and obviously there are different vaccines in different parts of the world. We've only approved one, but we're about to approve a second, I think. So there'll be a lot to pay attention to. And what you were saying about communities, Tarra, where people live close together in prisons, or in homeless or shelter situations, or in assisted living or nursing homes, those are the people that really we need to, where they can't do anything to protect themselves, to isolate themselves.
But those are also the most vulnerable people who have been put into these group facilities for a lot of, intersectional, social, and health reasons, and they are vulnerable. And I wouldn't want our government to be doing an experiment and giving the vaccine to them first in a way that is not ensuring their long-term safety. And so that's I think the trust building that needs to be happening with vulnerable people, because of our history in our nation of kind of doing that.
So I wonder if you might talk a little bit about your experience as a nonprofit executive director, and how nonprofits like the Senior Center can connect with the legislature, with our representatives and state senator in the most effective way. Yeah,
I think I will always want to have visits from my community, and particularly nonprofits that represent vulnerable people. And I think that our seniors are some of the most vulnerable and often overlooked community members that we have. So you can always reach out to me and Shannon, who will be my LA, and schedule some time and share with me your concerns. I will always come if you ask me and invite me, and I can, because really that is why I ran, is to stand up for the people that often are left behind or forgotten. And I think nonprofits represent most nonprofits represent those kinds of groups. In my experience as a nonprofit director, that's what we had to do, was, talked to as many legislators as we could to get an idea through. And if you have a legislative agenda, I would love to know it. Make sure you send it to me, Andrew, and Christine, and try to get us all three together. That's a good way too to save time for everybody, is getting all three of us together to listen to what your legislative agenda is and what your needs are. As a nonprofit director, I'll tell you, raising money was always the biggest challenge because we had so much work to do and so many needs and never enough. I don't know yet how to, outside of the capital budget requests, I know how to do that. I don't know the operating budget very well yet. I asked to go on appropriations, but they probably won't let me because I'm a freshman and you have to it's the most coveted committee, but Drew Hansen is on it and Christine Rolfes is the budget chair for the Senate. So we have friends in our district who can help us, but I would love to, really fundamentally shift the way we spend money and put it more into nonprofits and community-led organizations that are caring for our most vulnerable people. I just don't know how to do that yet.
I imagine you are drinking from the fire hose right now and very busy. So I really appreciate the time that you have spent with us today. Just really appreciate right here at the top, and we will be in touch and keeping track. And I appreciate your advice about looking at ledge.wa.gov. Is that what you said, as a good online resource to keep track of the committees that you will be on? And so thank you very much and congratulations.
And thank you all for what you're doing. And please, yes, feel free to reach out anytime I can be of service to you. I really, really value what you're doing, and I want to support you in all the ways possible as a legislator, as a community member, as a co-director of a nonprofit, and understand the financial challenges. Anything I can do, please reach out.